Right, we've now reached the final stage of the process. I'm going to check back a mix now that Clint's been putting together today. The way that I like to work with mixing is come in with a fresh set of ears really close to the end of the project. So basically I leave my mix engineer, in this case Clint Murphy, to bring a mix up, and based along the lines of the music we've discussed and the overdubs that we've done, and we've built up a lot of ideas as we've been going through the song. And I'm now going to come in, have a listen through the mix, and make my comments. We'll make a few fine tunes, and then we'll play it to the band and get their input on it. It's really good to have that three-stage process, I find, with mix engineer, producer, and then artist. And that way you should get a pretty good cross-section of checks and balances between everyone's ideas. So I'm going to have a little listen back to the mix now. For me, this first listen is always really, really critical, because first impressions are a really, really important part of listening to music. And I always try and put myself in the place of a listener who doesn't know the song when I'm listening to this first playback. Am I getting an emotional response? Is it the song really hitting me? What are my immediate thoughts about it? Rather than looking at too much at levels, it's got to be about the overall impression. It's always a constant battle for me to get musicians to listen to the song as if they hadn't played on it. And as a producer, you've got to do the same thing, because you get caught up in the process of making a song. And you have favourite songs because they were more enjoyable to record, and you've got to take yourself away from all those things and put yourself in the place of a listener who's hearing the song for the first time. So I try to just go into that headspace where you're just listening to the song and letting the overall impression become the most important part, as opposed to the minutiae of, is that hi-hat too loud, is that guitar too quiet. It was a pretty easy mix, this. Clint really nailed it the first time. We did a few little changes, but it felt great. I mean, the song was always coming together as we were recording it. I'm very big on making the song sound good and building up mixes as you go, which is one of the advantages of the duality. I mean, some producers like to work in the box for that reason, because you can build up the song and the whole mix comes together during the process. I've never been one for, don't worry, I'll fix it in the mix. Because if you have a song that sounds good during the recording process, then the musicians will get enthused about it, and you'll have a much better impression when you get to the end of the strengths and weaknesses of the songs and areas you need to work on when things sit in context. Everything in the song's got to be in context. A bass drum sound is just a bass drum sound when it's on its own. But when it sits in the song, that's where it's got to be right. And the same with every other sound in the song and every other part. You can often solo a mix and think, why does that sound so awful on its own? But the moment you put it in context, you realise why you made it sound that way. So when building up sounds and when recording sounds, always try and set as much up in context as possible. Run the track and play along with it, and you'll get a much better idea of how the whole thing should sit together, because every sound affects everything else. I was very pleased with the end of this track, the way we built up that coda section. It really does lift and takes the song to another level. And every layer we did built on that. So every bass sound, every drum sound, every guitar sound lifted this whole end section.